My son will be a senior in high school this fall, and we've been touring colleges. We toured a few and already planned to tour several out of state. The plan was for myself, my husband, and his father to do the tours together. We'll be touring 4 schools, and my ex is only going to 3 due to one being in conflict with a family wedding. My husband, son's stepdad, isn't going to one of them because of a business trip and might have to bail on another one. Some background. My son's father and I split up before our son was 6 months old. Soon after our relationship ended, I met my now husband, and we got married when my son was 3. My ex has supported our relationship and thinks my husband is a great stepfather. Our co-parenting relationship has been challenging at times, but we've done just fine for the sake of our son. Last year, my ex eloped with this woman, Shelley. They dated for only a year or so before marrying. I don't know her too well, since we've only met twice, but I know she has 3 kids. Her oldest is about the same age as my son. My son dislikes her. He thinks Shelley's mentally unhinged, is way too involved in his personal business, and blames her for being the reason he hasn't been able to spend as much quality time with his father lately. Earlier this week, I was coordinating with my ex about the details of our next tour. Everything was great until he mentioned that Shelley would be coming along on all our tours. I asked why and if she really needed to tag along. He said that she just wanted to be supportive. I asked him if her daughter was looking at these schools too, since she'll also be a senior, and he said no. So why is she coming if her own child isn't planning on attending those schools? I told him that our son should get a say in who comes to the tours, and that I would ask him what he thought about Shelley joining us. After I got off the phone with my ex, I asked our son if he wanted Shelley to come with us. He immediately replied no, and that he wasn't comfortable with her coming. I told our son he should speak with his father and let him know what he thinks. Fast forward to last night, my ex calls and is furious that I would get our son involved in this matter. I replied that our son is the one touring the colleges and making decisions about his future, and he gets to decide who can come along. Not to mention, our son is almost an adult, and at his age, is more than capable of deciding who he wants in his life and to what extent. Son has been vocal to his father about his feelings about Shelley. He accepts that his father loves her, but he doesn't see her as family. So I told my ex that if he loves his son and wants to continue having a relationship with him, he must respect his wishes and leave his wife at home. End of story. Ex replies that I'm an idiot. Shelley cares about our son, and he should be allowed to bring his wife whenever he chooses. Was I wrong? Was I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your son is the only person who gets any say here. And if your ex is more concerned about Shelley's feelings than his son's, then maybe he should stay home with her. Right? It's not like a family vacation that we're excluding her from. This is for OP's child and his parents, by his definition, to look at schools and make big decisions about his future. It's like Dad and Shelley forgot what the trip is for. I worked in admissions for 3 years. Nothing drives us crazy like people who make college tours a family affair. Leave the small kids at home and the grandparents at home. We look unfavorably at an applicant who brings their entire family because it signifies that they're not independent, and these kids tend to have parents who call the school and professors about every issue. Helicopter parents need to be given a wake-up call because they're failing their kids in this way. It hinders their ability to be independent and free-thinking adults. While I get what you're saying, that's easier said than done with divorced parents. There are women out there who get insanely jealous of the kids. My stepmother, third wife, was like that and would do everything in her power to keep my father from spending time with me, and then refused to pay for school because he didn't get to vet the school before I accepted it, and I'm still very bitter about it. It's always a power move. It's always about control. Also wondering about Shelley's 3 kids. Were they going to come on the visits too? Stay home with the oldest in charge? This trip is not about their new marriage and her rights as a stepmom, or a chance for a romantic weekend away for Shelley and X. I'm going to go against the general opinion here and say everyone's the idiot here. There's always a strong possibility that OP has been, intentionally or unintentionally, affecting the son's view. I think this really plays a strong part in the judgment. Also, the fact is, Shelley's part of the family and should be given the same respect as the stepdad. If there was no question of the stepdad joining, I don't know if OP should have even made an issue out of it. It will most likely definitely reinforce but he doesn't see her as family. So your husband can come because you remarried sooner than your ex, and Shelley can't. Your son loves his stepdad because he grew up with him, but he hates Shelley because he's a moody teenager who thinks the evil witch is taking his dad away from him. And you're loving this because you've gotten used to your queen bee status in this de facto threesome of yours. Yes, you are the idiot. Update. Am I the idiot for telling my child's father's new wife that she can't come with us? First of all, thanks for the validation and the kind words some left. I've read nearly everything you all have left, so thank you. I want to emphasize for anyone who may have missed it in my story that my son has been the main one communicating his boundaries to his dad, not me. My son is nearly adult and is more than capable of setting and enforcing his own boundaries. Also, since some expressed that it's hypocritical for my husband to be there, but not Shelley, let me reiterate that my son asked his stepdad to come along on the tours, and my ex is fine with him being there, and it was never an issue in the first place. There's also a lot more to the story behind why my son doesn't like Shelley that I couldn't explain in my original post. If it was up to me, I'd like him to get to know her better, but I understand his reasons, and I honor them. I'm certainly not pitting him against her, as some of you have implied. I talked to my son late last night about his father being upset about him not wanting Shelley to come along. I told him that I fully respected his choice and reminded him that he could share this experience with whomever he wanted. I encouraged him to talk to his dad again, explain his feelings about the situation, and let him know that I was happy to step in if he needed me. I also added that if he ultimately decided that he wanted to go on these tours alone, or just with one parent to avoid drama, which I communicated might be the best option, but that's just my opinion, and he doesn't need to consider it if he doesn't want to, that would be okay too. It's his tours and his decisions. So he called his dad this morning and calmly told him that he didn't want Shelley coming along on any of the tours and explained his reasons, which mainly included needing time with his dad, son Shelley, and him not wanting an entourage accompanying him on the tours. 5 is a crowd, Dad. I LOL'd when he said that. This time my ex was more receptive and told our son that he respected his feelings. But then he put his son on the spot and told him he should talk to Shelley directly about her not coming. He wasn't comfortable with that and requested that I step in and talk to both his dad and Shelley. So I got on the phone and repeated that this was our son's decision. I didn't say anything about my son disliking Shelley or feeling uncomfortable around her, because that's beside the point. Shelley was disappointed and said she understood and only wanted an opportunity to bond with her new stepson. I replied that it was sweet of her to want to get to know him better, but a college tour wasn't the time or place. Overall, she seemed to be okay with it. We spoke for another minute or two, and then she left the conversation, and I talked to my ex for a little while. I reiterated to him that ever since Shelley came into the picture, our son feels like he doesn't get as much quality time with his dad anymore, because either she's there during their entire time together, or he's busy being a stepfather to her kids. Son doesn't have an issue with his step-siblings, but also, I want to make sure X makes time for his own kid. I also explained to him that if Shelley's not coming was going to be this big of a deal to him, then he shouldn't come either. He said he understood where I was coming from and apologized for calling me an idiot. I asked him if it was Shelley who was pushing this issue or if it was him. Based on his response, I got the sense that Shelley expressed an interest in going and was okay not going if that was really his son's decision. But my ex just really wants her to feel more like a part of his family. So it's a mix of him appeasing her, but also wanting his son to get to know her better. So I gave him two choices. Either he comes without Shelley and uses those opportunities to have special time with his son, or he doesn't come to the tours. We find a weekend for him and his son to spend one-on-one time, but either way, Shelley isn't going to be there because our son isn't interested in a relationship with her right now. He shouldn't force it onto him. He said he'd think about his choices. So, all good there. I hope he decides to leave Shelley at home and come to whatever tours he can, because I know how important it is to our son. I have 3 children. The eldest 2, Kathy and Mark, are responsible and easy to get along with, and have been since I can remember. But my youngest, Kurt, is my wayward son. I'm not sure, but I think a lot of it is due to jealousy over his siblings being more accomplished than he is. Kathy's in uni, and Mark is shaping up to be a valedictorian. I've told Kurt many times that he could achieve just as much if he chose to work as hard as they did, but he chose not to. Lately, he's been in the habit of coming home late. I've tried to discourage it by locking up the pantry after a certain time, cutting off his allowance, and reminding him to follow the rules, but nothing's worked. About 2 weeks ago, Mark won an award for his science presentation, so we decided to have a nice dinner out as a family. Kurt wasn't allowed to go out as a fitting punishment for his repeatedly breaking the rules and crappy grades. It seemed like this taught him a lesson because he finally started turning in some A's, but I soon noticed it looked like he was having trouble walking. I pulled him aside, and though he tried to deny it at first, it eventually came out that he snuck out on the day he was grounded and supposedly fell out of a tree. I have doubts about that story, but the main point is that he broke the rules again. I'll admit that I got frustrated and told Kurt it's okay. I've resigned myself to the fact that he'll never be like his siblings. I instantly regretted it the moment I said it and tried to say he's his own unique person, blah, blah, blah. But even though he didn't say anything, I could tell he was upset because he went straight to his room. I can't decide if I was in the wrong. What I said was true, after all, and considering his bad behavior, I don't think I was out of line. Still, I might have been better off keeping it to myself. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. You're obviously constantly comparing your third kid to your oldest too. I bet this isn't the first time you've talked down to him. And keeping him out of a celebratory dinner with his siblings? All you're doing is making him hate them more and lashing out. You've made him this way, and now you're complaining? Kids pick up things pretty quickly, and he knows you don't care about him, so he's acting out to get attention. Get yourself sorted up, apologize, and make it up to him in a big way. Is this something that OP can apologize their way out of? Probably not. And if Kurt has any sense about him, he won't let OP. They should definitely apologize, but their relationship is most likely damaged forever. When my parents said something similar to me, I moved on, but no longer had any contact with them. That's what I was thinking. This is really a big defining moment in their relationship, and I just don't see OP being able to walk it back. This is the perfect illustration of how not to handle the situation. Why do people like OP have children? This kid is going to need therapy, a lot of it. You clearly show favoritism to your older children. How can you not see that everything Kurt does is a cry for attention? Has Kurt ever been evaluated for a learning disability? Telling a child that they could achieve just as much if they choose to work hard is a slap in the face if they are trying to work hard and are unable to accomplish because they need greater assistance than what's being provided. You've been failing one of your kids. OP probably has no idea about ADHD, dyslexia, autism spectrum, or other problems. I've had the same situation where my sister was a genius overachiever and I couldn't keep up. Still, luckily, my parents never compared us or told me I was lazy. Shame on OP for not educating herself more on parenting and people in general. My stepson has an infant daughter. Let's pretend her name is Jess. My husband and I are having a daughter soon. The name I want has the same first letter as Jess's. Let's pretend it's Jasmine. Jasmine is also my middle name. My husband likes the name Jasmine, but he says picking a name with the same first letter as Jess would insult his son. He also doesn't want to ask his son his opinion because he thinks his son will be offended or not say he isn't, even though he is. I think my husband is overthinking things. There are only 26 letters in the alphabet. Some people have to have names that start with the same letter. My husband insists it would be rude and tacky. I'm appealing to the court of public opinion. Would I be an idiot if I used this name? I might be one because, according to my husband, this might offend my stepson. I'm sorry, what? Not the idiot. Your husband's thought process is so far out in left field that it's in a different ballpark. And what's next? Sorry, darling. We already have 24 relatives. We can't have any children. Jesus, you can't call dibs on letters. If they were super similar names, then maybe. But if they aren't nearby, then do what you want. I think your husband doesn't want to name the child Jasmine and that he's being completely immature about communicating that to you. I think he may also feel guilty or weird about becoming a father when he's already a grandfather and doesn't want to take the chance of getting his son mad at him. I think this issue of picking a name is just the tree that's hiding the forest in a really awkward situation. This might be it. No one in their right mind would claim a letter like that. He may feel he's copying his son's life, first having a child right after his son has a child, then naming his child a similar name as his son's child. Yeah, I can see that may feel weird to do, especially if the expected nicknames will sound alike. I do think the fact that it's OP's middle name makes a difference though, but it's difficult. My wife has been depressed lately, losing her well-paying job in November last year. Her unemployment ran out, and she's now an assistant manager at a fast food place. She had a 3-phase interview for a job last week and didn't get picked at the end of it after almost a 2-month process. We decided to go through and host our 4th of July barbecue and pool party. My brother is an idiot, and my parents enable him. My wife and I have her degree on our living room wall. My brother told her, "You might as well shred that experienced piece of paper because it's doing you no good." My wife started crying, and that's extremely out of character for her. She goes to the bedroom and locks herself in. My brother said it was just a joke, but I had enough and told everyone to go home. The party was canceled. My parents started arguing, saying some people drove a few hours to be here, and I said, "Have the party at your place." I told everyone to grab whatever they came with and leave. It was about 20 to 25 people, and my mom said I was an awful host and an embarrassment to the family. And I said the same thing about my brother. He started it, so I made everyone leave. I'm getting mixed text messages about either checking in on my wife or being an idiot after kicking everyone out over one little comment my brother made. Not the idiot, for one simple reason. You can't host a party while your partner's having a breakdown in the bedroom. She takes priority, and everyone else should understand that. And with a pool in the backyard, you don't want the liability of walking away and trusting that everyone else can act appropriately and not get hurt on your property. Good for you for having your priorities straight. And stop inviting your family over if they're more interested in their own entertainment than in your wife's well-being. Who needs that toxicity? And quit sharing personal stuff with your family. It's obvious they're not supportive, and it's none of their business. You said it wasn't normal for her to cry like that, and she's probably under a lot of strain. The last thing she needed was a house full of people witnessing her having a mental breakdown. I feel bad for her. It wasn't just one little comment. It was rubbing salt into a wound. It feels humiliating when you have a professional career, but you have to take a low-paying job for a while. I've been there. Lots of people have. But the fact that she does shows her character, willing to do anything to support the both of you until a better thing comes along. Make sure she knows that. If I were an employer, I would admire someone willing to work, even if it wasn't their dream job. It's your house, and your wife is crying in the bedroom. The party's over.